Welcome back, everybody, to the Derby City Fandom podcast. Today, we are beginning the long and arduous task of starting at the very beginning of the timeline and working our way up. That's right. Today, we're talking about the First Avenger.
Captain America! My voice cracked a little bit there. You can edit that out, right?
Maybe.
No, we're going to leave that in.
Leave it in.
All right. That's embarrassing.
Boosted. But yes, Captain America, the First Avenger. Oh, geez. 2011.
2011. How long ago? That was 13 years ago.
12.
12?
12.
God, my math is terrible. I'm just going to shut up this episode.
No, you're not, because... Colin, what did this film currently rate at?
Oh, we're already at that point? Okay, so let's... ratings for IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. So first we'll start with IMDb at a 6.9 out of 10.
Yes.
Why is that so low?
I think the main answer there is that it's been out for 12 years, as well as it also has something like 873,000 reviews.
You would think with time that people would get more like nostalgic with it. It would probably creep up, but... Or maybe maybe it has creeped up. Was it lower?
I couldn't tell you. But you are correct, but the reverse is also true. Because the bigger the pool is, the less amount a singular grade is actually weighted.
Yeah. So initial reactions, initial thoughts. So we see 6.9 out of 10 for the IMDb rating. Do you guys think that's accurate? Too low, too high, right in the middle, just right?
I'd probably go to like 7.4.
I think it's a good like 7.5 to 8. Yeah,
I like the 7.5 to 8. Yeah.
But with that being said, Rotten Tomatoes actually has it at an 80%.
Okay,
I think that's fair enough. I mean,
so in my opinion, I guess people just fucking suck and don't really know how to criticize movies or
another
get fair
episode
scores.
of us just.
I mean,
bashing the internet.
maybe this episode shouldn't be about Captain America. Maybe we should just be bashing the critics.
Probably. Like, what was the... I mean, you guys don't know this, but like, I wonder what their criticism was.
Their criteria, like what things have to be checked off in order to get a perfect score. Who the fuck knows?
Like, I don't get it. I mean, it was a fun watch. I remember it being a very enjoyable movie, and it sets up all kinds of cool shit for the rest of the MCU.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right, let's dive right into it. First, like let's go back 12 years. First initial impression of seeing like the trailer. What'd you all think of it? Do y'all remember what the trailer was?
No, I don't remember the trailer at all. But
I do. It's
I do.
We see a rather thin, like gangly, might be the best word for it, Steve Rogers, like kind of depressed almost that he can't get accepted into the military during World War II.
I mean, there's a lot of that. Like in history, there's a lot of 4Fs. A lot of people that wanted to volunteer for the infantry or for the airborne or whatever. They got 4Fs because they didn't meet the physical demands, requirements exactly. And sure, like at that time, all your buddies are joining and you're not able to join because you're not physically fit to be in the military. And it's just like, damn, how many, like, this is going to get real dark real quick. How many, like, suicides happened because of that? How many people, like, got upset, you know? It's just real. It's real shit. That would legit happen.
Yes, but luckily, Steve Rogers' best friend, Bucky, happens to already be in the military and has a decent rank and is kind of able to convince the recruiters to allow him to try, right?
Yeah. And who does he end up meeting?
Tommy Lee Jones.
No, I'm not talking about Tommy Lee Jones. I'm talking about the other actor who ends up not forging, but basically passing him.
Dr. Abraham.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you pronounce Erskine?
Erskine, I believe.
Erskine, yeah.
Erskine.
And so he ends up going to boot camp. And we meet Tommy Lee
That's
Jones,
where we meet Tommy.
who, interestingly enough, him and like Vince Vaughn and like the Hacksaw Ridge movie, like you see these actors play like these drill sergeants, and I just don't think they can play a particular drill sergeant in general. That's my personal opinion. Like, get some like hardcore actors to play drill sergeants. You know what I mean?
I like the Tommy Lee Jones. I don't think it's fair to compare that casting with the
well,
Vince Vaughn and
Sure.
Hacksaw
Okay.
Ridge.
Yes. But like,
Yeah. I also don't think he was one of the drill sergeants. He was just the colonel that was kind of there looking at the new batch of recruits
Yeah, he was kind of the colonel because he's tied to this
to the program.
the super soldier experiment program.
Yeah.
So it's kind of more like
okay,
he's.
I stand corrected. I apologize. I am wrong.
I think a better analogy would be Matt Damon and Oppenheimer, maybe.
I haven't seen it, so
Not analogy, comparison. But
Okay.
anyways, back to Captain America.
Back to Captain
First
America.
Avenger.
So, if we're just going by what we saw in the trailer, we also see like Tommy Lee Jones just pull out a dummy grenade and throw it out into the middle of the practice ground, and it's just like grenade,
So
and
this-
everybody scatters. But Steve Rogers decides to jump on it. And that is the deciding moment that basically shapes the entirety of his future.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I like this film so much, because it has phenomenal character development. So Steve Rogers, Captain America's like his development in this film, they show it so well from this, as you mentioned, Kenny, this scrawny kid from Brooklyn.
He's Brooklyn, yes.
Brooklyn.
And he
Yeah.
finally makes his way into boot camp, and he's still this scrawny kid, but he's like using his brains more so than his bronze. And then he just shows his courage by jumping on the grenade. So you just see it like developing. It's like, man, I don't have the muscles, I don't have the stamina per se.
But I can at least protect everybody else around me.
Yeah, but I got the balls to protect everyone else around me. I got the courage and bravery, and I'm smart. So I don't know. They did a good job in this film portraying all those aspects and kind of like really getting the audience hooked into like, all right. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's coming next, but
Yeah.
it's fun to watch.
That definitely shows. I agree with you, Jake. That definitely shows, especially when the scene where you find them running and they come up to the flagpole. It's like, all right, anybody can get the flag. Is going to get a ride further up. And everybody's like trying to jump on and climb the pole, and they're all failing. And then they're all starting to walk off. Here comes young Rogers looking up at the flagpole and then seeing that there's a little peg at the bottom of it. And he just pulls the peg. Flagpole comes down, grabs the flag, hands it off, and jumps in the Jeep with Agent Carter. Is she in the Jeep with him, or is she off to the side somewhere?
I think she's.
I don't remember where
She's
Peg
at least
is.
watching. I don't know.
Yeah, she's at
Yeah.
least watching. I
But
don't remember.
he just hops in the Jeep, and they all just kind of like, good for you, man.
Yeah, love it. Love that scene, man.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So, as we kind of mentioned, he gets selected for the super soldier serum experiment by Erskine, and we see the fun scene of him becoming Captain America. We also get some fun faces like Tony Stark's father, Howard,
Yeah, you see a young Howard Stark.
setting all of that in motion.
See, we already got connections going on in the MCU.
Yep.
Already connecting all the dots.
So we see that happen, and
His transformation comes out of the little
yes,
Shell.
comes out of the little pod,
pod.
ripped.
Ripped as hell. Agent Carter
Taller.
basically wants to.
It's like flabbergasted. I lost for word.
Easy call.
Easy.
I mean, you see her facial expression, and like she kind of like reaches out to like touch his abs and his chest.
Oh,
but
she's definitely
she flinches
thirsty.
back. I mean, I would have too,
yeah.
especially like back in the 40s. Like you don't really see a dude ripped that freaking hard.
Well, yeah, it's like, but you also have to think that this guy went from like 5'4" to like 6'3".
Yeah, he basically grew a foot, grew about an additional 100 pounds.
Of muscle.
Yeah, I'd be pretty
Yeah.
impressed too. But anyway, so there is a spy
Yes. Hydra.
Kruger.
in the room, and there is a bomb that ends up going off, right?
Yes, he sets a bomb off with his lighter,
Yep. Yeah.
which blows up the room, blows up the experiment, which is why they're never really able to replicate the super soldier serum. Although later on they have like a modified version of it, which gets injected into a different person, depending on which different person you're talking about. You can either think that is
Spoiler.
either Deadpool or Wolverine.
I was thinking more along the lines of
Bucky.
Bucky.
Bucky gets it too, but
And then we see in the
Deadpool gets it?
he gets a different version of a
Yeah.
super soldier serum.
essentially.
Huh.
Yeah. So yeah, we're then I guess introduced to Hydra,
Red Skull.
Red Skull, and the fact that they have the Tesseract. Now, this is our first introduction to the Tesseract.
Another connection.
Another connection, and how they are, how Dr. Zola and Schmidt are basically heading Hitler's like advanced weaponry division alongside Hydra. But we see how that interacts with people. So some of the fun fan theories is that the guns that these Hydra soldiers have, they don't kill people. They just merely transport them somewhere else, because that's what the Tesseract does.
Pretty much.
But we don't know that at the time, so we just kind of see these people like explode into like a blue puff.
I guess we kind of missed a key part here is when the bomb goes off in the let's call it a lab.
Yeah, it's a lab.
Captain America ends up chasing him, and he gets into that little one-man sub kind of, you know.
The U-boat, the mini U-boat.
No, it's not a U-boat. It's like a little small submarine. But anyway, he punches through the glass. He gets him out, and then he ends up taking a cyanide capsule, kills himself. So they don't really get any information whatsoever.
Yep.
And then with him dead, he essentially is sent off to go on a world tour as Captain America to promote war bonds,
Yep. Fund the war.
while scientists basically study him and attempt to reverse engineer the formula.
Yes, which is funny because when Captain America first came out, it was 1940, so he was used for propaganda. So that's a fun little nod. Is that okay?
He's
yeah,
the American,
he's
Kenny.
the American hero, right?
the American
Screw
hero.
GI Joe,
Greatest
Captain America.
generation. That's right. Damn straight. That's right.
And then, while he's off on tour, basically Rogers learns that Bucky's unit basically goes MIA, I think somewhere in Italy,
Yep.
I want to say. And so basically he kind of just like, all right, I need to get a team together and let's go find out where Bucky is, his best friend. And he ends up finding him where? You remember where?
Not in particular, but they do just kind of like catch up to him.
Some like fortress. Yeah. But anyway, Rogers basically infiltrates, if you will, the fortress of Schmidt, is it like Schmidt's Hydra division or something like that? And they got a bunch of like tanks and shit.
Yep.
And he basically finds Bucky and the MIA unit and pretty much saves them. And they have that little walk where they're coming into the American base, and everybody's like, "Woo!"
Yeah. Prior to that, though, we get the fun scene where Howard Stark is trying to figure out like what's a good weapon, what's a good thing for a person called Captain America to use, right?
Right.
So they show him like this just table full of like riot shields,
Yeah.
and he just sees basically this little frisbee shield on the bottom shelf,
Right.
and he's just like, I like that one.
It's made of the strongest metal on Earth.
After the fact.
After the fact, they realize that.
Yes. But yeah, how Howard even has enough vibranium to make the shield is boggling at times. But yes, so we get the I guess famous shield, red, white, and blue.
Yeah, I mean, before all that action happens, I guess, we see Schmidt takes off his face essentially and reveals that he's Red Skull.
Yes, the Red Skull, aptly named.
Yeah. And, obviously Schmidt escapes and Rogers returns to the base with the freed soldier. So,
Yep. He then immediately recruits them, and they just go on a tear through to the different Hydra bases.
yeah. Stark basically outfits Rogers with advanced equipment, most notably a circular shield made of vibranium. Da, 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 da.
Yes. And we see Captain America basically use like his intelligence to basically make this shield that's able to like withstand damn near anything, but it also is oddly aerodynamic because of its shape,
Yep.
and it's able to like bounce it off of tanks and have it do all kinds of crazy like yo-yo boomerang like shenanigans.
Yeah,
Makes for good fun action.
it does. But one thing that we're kind of missing is we kind of miss the part where Rogers and Carter kind of starting to fall for one another.
Correct, yeah.
And who's the blonde haired girl? She's in Game of Thrones, but like I think she attempts to
Take a pass.
take a pass, but they end up kissing. I don't remember. They end up kissing, and I guess Agent Carter got a little jealous or something.
I don't remember that actress's name. I
Anyway,
know Peggy's.
it's not important.
Yeah, Peggy's Howie.
I like. It's kind of fitting that we're talking about this right now because we just wrapped up Secret Invasion, which you have Olivia Colman's character, Sonya Falsworth, right?
Yep.
So, in Captain America: First Avenger, when he saves all these soldiers, you got Union Jack in there. You got what's his name, Montgomery Falsworth.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're tying all that back. So even today, the most recent release was Secret Invasion. At the time we were recording this, and they're tying back the Falsworths back to the initial Captain America: First Avenger. Not to mention, Colin, that you have Dugan from is it Dugan? I don't know. Dugan from Band of Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which a lot of the actors have like made mention that to get themselves like in like the mindset for this film, they watched a lot of like old war documentaries, of which Band of Brothers was like the big one
Oh yeah.
that they all kind of like watched.
And so essentially, I guess if we kind of fast forward a little bit, we have Rogers and his air quote team. They find the train that Zola is on.
Yeah, Zola's on that train.
And they're trying to get
Basically stop Zola from getting like the weapons to Schmidt, to Red Skull.
right. And
Doesn't go well.
it does not go
No.
well. Actually, somebody ends up air quotes dying.
It's definitely Bucky.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler, Bucky ends up falling out of the train.
Bucky dies.
But as you see later on in the MCU, he does not. End up dying.
He is not dead. In fact,
Comes the Winter Soldier.
the Winter
and
Soldier.
Connections.
Yep.
that kind of stuff. That's why Marvel's so freaking awesome.
That's why Marvel's good at what they do. But yeah, so we kind of get like the big final like climactic scene where we see
Red Skull.
Red Skull interacting with the Tesseract, but the Tesseract's container gets damaged,
Yeah.
opening a portal to space, of which Red Skull gets sucked into. He'll show up quite a bit later in Infinity War, or no, Endgame. But for the most part, he's dealt with. As far as we know, he's dealt with.
What was your thoughts on that, Kenny? Red Skull coming back in Infinity War. Have any?
Well, for me, it makes sense because
Why does it make sense?
that's just what the Infinity Stones do. They do like some random shenanigans. Like unless you see them like explode into a pile of ash on the floor, you have to consider every character still be alive.
I mean, he kind of mentions that in Infinity War. He is going after a stone he was trying to possess, but he ends up showing people how to get the stone himself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little irony.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember someone saying it's like kind of like a punishment for him.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like punishment / like he has like no way to actually give up like what he loves the most. So he could never get to the stone if he wanted to.
Exactly.
So he just shows everybody else how to do it.
100%. But anyway, kind of getting off track here. The whole plane scene,
Yeah.
and
You say like you weren't a fan of that scene, Colin.
no, I like the scene. It was kind of
I gotta take her down.
Well,
it was kind of like a really long scene, essentially. Like that big of a plane falling, I don't know, what, 30,000 feet. It seemed like half the fucking movie. To me, it's kind of like a Fast and Furious, like the longest runway of all fucking time. Anyway,
Yeah.
oh,
remember
that the runway scene. Yeah.
yeah, when they're on
Hasn't
the plane.
has enough time to kiss Peggy.
Yeah, essentially, you know, he ends up taking over the plane. And he's trying to fly it.
Fly it away to where the weapons on it have no chance of ever like if they were to explode, like minimal damage kind of situation. So he flies it to the Arctic naturally.
Yeah. Well, the plan was to take out New York and whatnot. But anyway, yeah, he lands in Antarctica and crashes, and that's literally the beginning of the film, is these scientists
Finding the aircraft
finding the aircraft and
in present day.
finding Captain America on it.
Cryogenically frozen. Esque.
I loved the ending of this film. So them bringing Steve Rogers back from the frozen ice Arctic waters.
Yeah, so they thaw him out and they put him in like a 1940 room.
Yeah.
And there's a radio playing.
And they're, you know,
With a baseball game.
the baseball game goes on, and like Steve Rogers gets suspicious. He's like, "Hey,
He has like an
I was-
existential crisis.
I was at that game.
I was
I
at-
attended that game. Like I loved everything about this ending. Like they're trying to dupe him. They use baseball. It's just like this, like pro-American kind. Oh man, it's so cool. And then he wakes up. He runs outside. They're trying to calm him down. He's in the middle of like modern day
of Times
Square. Probably like, what in the world? And then we get to meet
Fury.
Fury.
Nick Fury, and
Yeah.
it just sets up so much fun for the rest of MCU. That
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why I absolutely love this movie. It's like it connects all the dots.
And 2 weeks later, the Avengers happen,
Yeah,
which is crazy. The Skitarii invade.
good timing.
Right, it's good timing, but the turnaround is crazy.
Atari invade. At that point, yeah, like you said, Jake, you see the SUVs pull up. Fury pops out. We see that Shield is talking to Captain America, or as we know, Hydra.
I got a mission for you.
And, you know, we see Fury. And at what point is he become a Skrull?
Oh yeah,
Gosh,
Has Saber been built at this point? No.
no. It's
But
in the
it's-
process of being built because that was, I think, supposed to be set in like 2012, correct? Like the modern day for.
correct.
Yeah.
So it's right before the Avengers.
Yeah.
meet up.
Yep. It's a good film. I enjoyed the hell out
But
of it.
it's the start, while we're picking this one, it's the start of the, at least the MCU version of all this.
Yeah, no, that would be Iron Man. That came out 2 years earlier. This is
Well,
just the first film in the timeline.
In the timeline.
Technically.
In the timeline is what I'm referring
Yeah.
to.
Because I'll have to actually like pull up the like list officially, but it's like this film happens, right? Like the 1940s bit happens, so that's why it's like the first. But then you get Captain Marvel, which happens in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, the 80s, 70s, 80s, like, you know, height of the Cold War kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Overall a good film. I enjoyed the cast. We didn't really talk about the entire cast, but we don't have to.
So, well, we can. So this is Chris Evans' second time in a Marvel film at this point. He had been in the Fantastic Four films as Johnny Storm, or the Human Torch, however you want to refer to him.
Human Torches. My preference.
Fair enough, but yes. So this is not his first time in the MCU, but he had actually turned down this role a handful of times. And it took like people like Tommy Lee Jones, and it took I'm blanking on his name, but Robert Downey Jr. Like, it took their like influence and their like suggestions to actually have him take the role.
Yep.
Because he was scared to death that he was going to actually screw up like one of his favorite heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really
It's a
blame
big
him.
concern. Well, he didn't screw it up. I
didn't
was a
screw
big
it
fan
up.
of Chris Evans and Captain America. And I hope one day they bring him back. But
Doubtful. Anyway.
I don't. Yeah, with how
said
they
hope. I said hope.
with how they wrapped it up, I don't. In Endgame, I don't think that they're going to bring back Captain America. He's done his time. Chris Evans has done his time, so to speak.
I have hope.
Anyway, so Chris Evans, we got who else? Haley Atwell, Sebastian Stan, Hugo Weaving, Samuel L. Jackson, Stanley Tucci, Tommy Lee Jones, and Natalie Dormer. That's who that blonde chick is. That was trying to
Natalie?
start shit.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Neil McDonough, who plays Dugan.
Dum Dum.
But anyway, yeah. Closing thoughts?
Well, I think that this has a lot of fun nods to the later MCU stuff, which, with hindsight being what it is, us covering this film so much later, like, we have like the more references to pull from, like the like Jake's British M16 like family. We have just Howard Stark showing up and how he gets involved. Samuel L. Jackson showing up at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Just a lot of like just interconnecting that we see Marvel start doing very early on. And just like these connections that have lasted 12 years after the fact.
And we still got a long way to go.
And we still got a long way to go.
They're all scrolls. That's my opinion.
No, closing facts for me, closing comments for me. I love the film. It's by no means my favorite film, but I think it was really fun to watch. I love all the connections. I think looking back on it, hindsight, it's just even more fun. Like it, I'm a big fan of watching all the MCU films from start to finish, and I'm very happy that this is the first one. I think it gets the job done, and it's enjoyable, and it makes sense, and it's clean and clear, and it's not perfect, but gets the job done.
So with that being said, this is definitely the first episode of many that we're doing, starting from the beginning of the timeline, working our way up. We've kind of jumped the gun on a couple of them just because they're really good and they need to be talked about when they did. However, I think our next episode will probably have to be that first Iron Man film.
Guess we'll find out.
Guess we'll find out.
Stay tuned.
Stay
Dun,
tuned.
dun, dun.
So, like, comment, and subscribe. Recommend us to your friends. We're growing. We like everybody's interaction with us. Colin's been killing it with the shorts. Good job, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Nothing from Jake. Okay. Just staring awkwardly.
I looked at Colin's shorts, like his actual shorts, then it took me a second. Like, oh, Kenny's referring to the YouTube show.
Oh my god. Why do we keep you
Edit
around?
that part out, please.
That one I will.
Okay. All right. Everybody have a good day.
See you, everybody.